Let's start. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshata. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. So we have been discussing from the book Bhakti Loka by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And the book is a collection of 12 essays on the 6 favorable and the 6 unfavorable items for progressing on the path of devotional service. Atyahara prasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. In this way, we have discussed already 6 essays describing the 6 unfavorable items for progressing on the path of devotional service. So now we have started discussing the 6 favorable items, starting with Utsaha, Utsahan Nischayat Dairyat Tat Karma Pravartanat Sangatyagat Sato Vritte Shadbir Bhakti Prasiddhiti. The 6 favorable items, starting with Utsaha. Utsaha means enthusiasm, and in enthusiasm, actually we have been discussing, and in the last week we discussed that one of the main reasons for devotees to lose enthusiasm in their practice of devotional service is when we may get demotivated due to unsteadiness in our practice of devotional service. While unsteadiness is natural, while anarthas persist, we may actually unreasonably steadiness to manifest while the anarthas still persist. So this is one of the main reasons, and in this context we were discussing that unsteady devotional service or anishtita bhajana kriya. There are 6 stages of anishtita bhajana kriya, and only after anartha nivritti is completely accomplished does steady devotional service start. But in anticipation of steadiness in our practice of devotional service, we may get demotivated and lose enthusiasm when we persistently see that we are not able to steadily practice devotional service. So this can lead to loss of enthusiasm. So it is very important to understand that every sadhaka goes through in the initial stages these various levels of unsteady devotional service. So we saw the 6 are Utsahamayi or false confidence, Ghana Tarala or sporadic endeavor, Vyuda Vikalpa or indecision, Vishaya Sangara or struggle with the senses, Niyama Akshama or inability to uphold the vows, and tarangarangini, which is enjoying the facilities offered by Bhakti. So in this we saw the 6 stages. The first stage is the stage of false confidence, where in the beginning of one's devotional life, everyone thinks that, oh, I think I can, one may have that initial rajoguni kick where one may start practicing very enthusiastically and think that one can continue with that same enthusiasm throughout, but in reality, this does not happen. Over a period of time, reality strikes, which is Ghana Tarala. We see that we are not able to maintain that same enthusiasm. There is thick and thin practice where sometimes there is, this, 32 rounds, 64 rounds, and sometimes we are struggling to chant even 1 round. Okay, so so this is, even though one may think that oh, this seems like a degradation, but in reality this is not degradation. This is actually proper understanding of our real position. So, so this is actually our reality, where that kind of false enthusiasm is not a very sustainable kind of enthusiasm. So when one realizes that, then one comes in touch with reality. This is called as ghana tarala. So the bubble gets burst, and we realize that that enthusiasm was false. It was just an excitement of newfound faith. That's all. So the devotee understands his actual position, and we understand that this is actually progress. Even he has, um, you know, even the prayer he was chanting 32 rounds or 64 rounds, but now he's struggling to chant 2 4 rounds. But this 2 4 rounds is actual capacity as of now. Then comes the third stage, where he realizes that I cannot continue with this kind of up and down practice of devotional service. I need to actually practice more steadily. So then he thinks, what is the cause of my unsteadiness? And in thinking in this way, he is able to see only external reasons for his unsteadiness. He thinks maybe it's my job, maybe brahmacharya ashram would suit me more, grahastha ashram would suit me more, or maybe I should just go and stay in um, Vrindavan. I should not be staying here. Like that, in this way, he keeps extensively speculating, while always thinking maybe the problem is with my with the external things. Adjust things externally, my practice will become steady, which is not wrong. Which is not wrong. Certainly, the external factors are contributing to some extent to his unsteadiness, but he is overestimating the role that the external factors are playing in his unsteady practice of devotional service. Actually, the external factors may not play that big a role, but nevertheless, at his stage of devotional maturity, he cannot realize it. So he continues, he makes these adjustments, and later, after some time, he realizes that even after adjusting all the externals perfectly, still his practice of devotional service is unsteady. Then he wonders what could be the cause. He realizes the real reason for the unsteadiness is not just the external factors, but in reality, it is my uncontrolled mind and senses. So then uh, he sort of then comes his protracted struggle to control the uncontrolled mind and senses. He tries his best to control them, and in trying to control them, sometimes he achieves success, sometimes he achieves failure. So in this way, uh, uh, he has this tug of war with his senses, in which sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses, and this stage is called as Vishaya Sangara, which means struggle with his senses. Struggle with his senses. This is called as Vishaya Sangara. And so, um, so therefore, uh, and we saw that not that before this stage there was no struggle with the mind and senses, but just that he was not mature enough to figure out the problem. He did not have sufficient devotional maturity to figure out that the actual problem was uncontrolled mind and senses. So this is called as Vishaya Sangara. Then comes the next stage, which is called as Niyama Akshama. So Niyama Akshama means where at some point uh, controlling the uncontrolled mind and senses is not a serious issue. He's achieved fairly good control over that. Gradually, over a period of time, he starts making positive vows for improving his devotional service. It is no longer, struggling with the negatives. Now he is struggling to enhance the positives. How can I increase my number of rounds? How can I study Bhagavatam more? How can I spend little more time doing services in temple? So, he starts making vows um, for increasing or enhancing his mm, positive practice of devotional service, in which sometimes he attains success, sometimes he attains failure. So this sometimes having the ability to keep up his vows, sometimes inability to keep up his positive vows is called as niyama akshama, or inability to uphold vows. So therefore, while the difference between Vishaya Sangara and Niyama Akshama is, Vishaya Sangara is the inability to give up material enjoyment, whereas Niyama Akshama is the inability to improve his devotional service. So, Vishaya Sangara is struggling with control of mind and senses, whereas Niyama Akshama is struggling with enhancing his positive practice of devotional service. And at some stage, he may even become successful in both controlling his senses and mind, and also in enhancing his positive practice of devotional service. At this time, the the devotees, the devotee community, they start noticing, and immediately name, glorification, facilities, honor, everything follows, and suddenly the person gets too much uh, controlled by that um, name, fame, glorification that comes. And so instead of going deep into the ocean of bhakti rasa, he just starts surfing on the waves of facilities, glorification, etc. This is called as tarangarangini. So this pujala pratishta. So these are considered to be weeds around the creeper of bhakti. Hmm. So actually, in the so actually these stages should come when we actually progress. But in today's day and age, uh, you know, the whole uh, devotional association has all become virtual. So it's all online. People can just, social media can make anyone popular overnight with no one seeing that person. Because when people, um, we should actually not take the feedbacks and glorification of those who have not seen us very seriously, actually, because that is not a mm, realistic evaluation. But those people who have been living with us, who know our strength and weaknesses, who have seen our struggles, their evaluation of us is very realistic. So in such a setup, tarangarangini comes only with significant progress. Whereas in this day of virtual reality, because people don't get to see you, the only thing that they get to see you is you're delivering a class or you're singing a bhajan, and overnight the person can become an internet sensation, and so many glorifications and laurels and everything may follow, which means the person may actually be struggling with serious issues, but just that he may just be giving some lectures, or speaking, releasing some short videos which may be very catchy, and in that way people who are very superficial may get very easily attracted, and they may glorify, and this may take those glorifications very seriously. But in reality, we should never take the glorification of those who do not know us properly, who have not seen us. Their glorification should never be taken seriously. If we take that seriously, then that will become a very major reason for our stunted progress on the path of devotional service. But therefore, in today's day, with all this internet and social media, this tarangarangini, which is actually supposed to come after Niyamakshama, it may come, during much early stages, which is very dangerous actually, which may put the sadhaka under serious illusion. He may be struggling with serious issues, whereas uh, he may have like 1,000 people, 20,000 people glorifying him as being very, very progress, very nice, very wonderful. So he may think that, oh, see, one person may be, 2% may be wrong, 10 people may be wrong, but 10,000 people cannot be wrong. If 10,000 people feel that I'm an extraordinary person, then I must really be extraordinary. So maybe my struggle with my senses and all these things is illusory. One may think like that. So this is a very dangerous state because this clouds our ability for proper self-evaluation. So this clouds our ability for proper self-evaluation. So therefore, this is very unfavorable and very dangerous actually. So therefore, we should always take the evaluation of the people who are physically staying with us. Their evaluation is proper evaluation. Others are misevaluating us. If we take those evaluation very seriously, we'll be in trouble. Anyways, so for overcoming tarangarangini, we should take the opinion of those devotees with whom we are living with seriously, rather than the comments we receive on the social media. So the main point is that because we have the 6 levels or 6 types of unsteady devotional service, in our eagerness to steadily practice devotional service, we may have to navigate through the various stages of unsteady devotional service for years and decades. And this may demotivate us and, maybe weaken our enthusiasm for devotional practice. But we should not allow this to demotivate us. We should definitely remain enthusiastic while navigating through these stages of unsteady devotional service, understanding that as long as the influence of Rajogun and Tamogun is there, we will definitely practice of devotional service will be unsteady only, and gradually only over the period of time when due to proper practice of devotional service, when the influence of Rajogun and Tamogun subsides more and more, then naturally our anishtita bhajana kriya will become nishtita bhajana kriya or nishta. So therefore, a proper understanding of these stages and understanding that how these stages are very natural for a sadhaka is important to actually not get demotivated when we see that persistently our practice of devotional service is becoming unsteady. So he says anishtita bhajana kriya is natural, and as one gradually navigates through the 6 stages of unsteady devotional service, he reaches the stage of nishta. And this can sometimes many times take very, very long time to pass. And when anartha nivritti gets accomplished, then one comes to the stage of nishta, steady bhajan. One must remain enthusiastic, understanding that steadiness does not come overnight, and it is actually earned by sincere efforts. So while we should not lose enthusiasm, rather we should be enthusiastic to sincerely put our effort, and gradually over a period of time, tadharajastamo bhava kamalobhadayasche chete teranaviddam stam sattve prasidati. So like that, then one reaches stage of steadiness. And then the next theme that we discussed is about inattentiveness. How another reason for lack of enthusiasm is inattentiveness. Inattentiveness is a sign of enthusiasm. In order to progress, there should be no inattentiveness. One should consciously try to overcome inattentiveness to enthusiastically practice devotional service. So, so how do we overcome this inattention in our practice of devotional service? Uh, how do we overcome inattentive chanting, inattentive hearing, inattentive dealings? I mean, any kind of inattention in our practice of devotional service, especially chanting. How do we overcome this? That is what we are going to see now from Harinam Chintamani. So we are going to see from Harinam Chintamani how do we overcome this inattention. But before we start that discussion, if there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions based on what we have discussed till now in the previous sessions and recap today, we will take. Anything anyone would like to share, ask, add, you can please raise your hands or type your questions in the chat box and then we can take it further. Okay, there is a question here in the chat box. What is the relationship between enthusiasm and determination? So enthusiasm is a precursor for determination. So they are certainly connected. Enthusiasm is like the precursor. It when one is not enthusiastic, then to put determined effort is not possible. Determination to a large extent comes from sattva guna. So and determination is possible. There is freedom from doubts. So enthusiasm when enthusiasm plus freedom from doubts leads to determination. So determined effort needs two things. One is enthusiasm, second is free from doubts. When both these things are accomplished, then it leads to determination. That's plain. Okay. There is one hand up and there are questions in the chat box. First, we'll take the questions in the chat box and then we will take the questions, further questions. Okay. There is a question. Does Bhajana Kriya start from the moment one starts chanting one round of Hare Krishna mantra and hear from Prabhupada or other exalted devotees of ISKCON? Yeah. Bhajana Kriya start uh, when the moment one actually starts chanting and doing the other limbs, or does it start after we become strongly fixed in sadhu sangha? Well, the question is what is being strongly fixed in sadhu sangha? I mean, as long as one is practicing some limb of devotional service at their own level, with some kind of guidance, I think Bhajana Kriya has started. It may be Anishtita Bhajana Kriya, because even Utsahamai is said to be Anishtita Bhajana Kriya only, right? Even Utsahamai stage is said to be Anishtita Bhajana Kriya. So then definitely it need not be. So if the person is very strongly fixed in Sadhu Sangha, then definitely he would not be in Utsahamai stage. He would be at least in Ganatarala stage. So because Utsahamai is also under an Anishtita Bhajana Kriya, which means essentially Bhajana Kriya. So therefore, yeah, it may not. It's not necessary that one has to be strongly fixed in Sadhu Sangha. It may be even before being very strongly fixed in Sadhu Sangha. Okay. The next question. If we are unable to change the externals, not able to adjust the external incompatibilities when we are in Vyuda Vikalpa stage, then we cannot change the externals, but just focusing on controlling the senses and mind, right? So the question is, let us say if we are at the stage of Vyuda Vikalpa, Vyuda Vikalpa means where we are trying to attain steadiness in our practice of devotional service by uh, by by adjusting the externals. Okay. What if what while if we are at that stage, we are not able to adjust the externals? Huh? So then do we just try to control our mind and senses? Well, if you are not able to adjust the externals, then just that the Vyuda Vikalpa stage may continue for a little longer time. Till we develop the devotional maturity to see beyond the externals and actually start seeing that the problem is with our own uncontrolled mind and senses. So we cannot skip the stage. Devotional maturity does not, you cannot skip a stage by knowing the stage. So there was one devotee, I think I shared this example. One devotee who has attended my Madhurya Kadambini session. Uh, he had he was part of a particular ashram and brahmachari ashram, and he had issues with his authority, with his managerial authority for a significantly long time, and it was a big struggle. So he was thinking, maybe mm, I should move from one temple to another temple or from one authority to another authority. It may solve my problem. So he called me and he said, Prabhuji, I'm going through this issue, but and I'm seriously thinking that if I change the situation, my problem will be solved. But this is Vyuda Vikalpa, right? I said, yes, this is Vyuda Vikalpa. So does it mean I should not change? I said, no. You can change, because just by knowing that, by changing the external, I'm trying to attain steadiness by changing my external situations. I may not get the result. I told, yeah, you may not get the full result. It's not that the externals have no role to play. Um, it is just that um, you're overestimating the extent to which the external factors determine your steady practice of devotional service. But what to do? That is your. Then he said, "But Prabhuji, then why do I so strongly feel that if only I had a different authority, I would be so fixed in my practice of devotions?" I said, "Because look, that is what is your stage, and even though externally we may say that no, it is actually the problem is with the uncontrolled senses, the person is not actually ready to understand. He does not have the devotional maturity to understand that it's actually I have to start looking internally. It is not with the externals." So I said, look, as long as you are at that stage, uh, just by knowing that, you know, um, mm, knowing that this is Vyuda Vikalpa will not help you transcend Vyuda Vikalpa. So therefore, you try your best, try to make some adjustments with the externals, and it will give you some temporary relief. And by the time you actually uh, mature little bit more, you will have the ability and conviction to see that the actual problem was with our uncontrolled mind and senses. Just hold on for 1 second. Hold on for 1 second. So that is one of the things. So if we are unable to change the externals, then what will happen? If while we are at Vyuda Vikalpa stage, if we are unable to change the externals, then what will happen is that the Vyuda Vikalpa stage may extend for a little longer time. And in the meantime, we may get some devotional maturity, and we may understand that, oh, actually, I need to focus more on my uncontrolled mind and senses. We may come to that conclusion actually. Okay, the third question. What stage lasts for the longest time? Is it Vishaya Sangara or will it be different for different devotees? Well, that kind of a mention is not there. It may be different. It may be different for different devotees. People who have more of a Sattva-guni conditioning, they may not have the Vishaya Sangara for a very long time. So it may be different for different devotees. Fourth question. Utsahamai stage. Is it just in the beginning or can it come many times in life? Well, um, uh, the actual Utsahamai is generally in the beginning. Once one overcomes that and matures, one may not have, I mean, one may certainly underestimate certain certain aspects of devotional service even later in one's devotional life. But that is, I don't think that is called strictly as Utsahamai, because definitely one develops some level of maturity by then. Okay, there. Okay, the continuation of the question. Like when we are staying in a powerful place like Vrindavan, or in the association of some very great devotees, that time, yeah, is it okay? Is it just in the beginning? Oh, okay. He says that while we are in the association of a very exalted devotee, or while we are in a very potent place, uh, you know, we may be protected from Utsahamai, but I'm still not able to understand the question very clearly. Can you clarify the question, Mataji? I have unmuted you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is that sometimes when we go to Dham and when we go to stay there for longer times, then our enthusiasm is so much because there are deities, the atmosphere is so potent, and we get, even if we get to stay 4 5 months like that, we are able to attend Mangal Aarti every day. We are able to chant in the morning. We are able to do everything very nicely, but when we leave Dham, when we come to a place at our home or somewhere where the temple is not there, devotees are not there, then definitely Mangalarti every day and that enthusiasm to chant, everything goes away now, Prabhuji. So I'm asking that enthusiasm which we feel when we are at such places or when we are in the association of such Vaishnavas, that enthusiasm is that also Utsamai.
Well, it's not Utsahamai as long as we understand and appreciate the potency of the place and association.
Okay.
If we take all the credit for ourselves, that I have advanced, I have become very potent. If we take all the credit while not willing to give any credit to the, not willing or unable to see the role that the dham is playing and the association is playing, then that is Utsahamai. But if we are able to clearly see that the dham is making a big effect, the association is making a big effect, when we are able to see that, that is not Utsahamai.
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji. So that is very true. I have experienced in my life many times. It's really true. The potency of Dham and the potency of that vibrations, it actually gives us so much energy and so much enthusiasm. Because I have stayed in Golden Village for 8 months, and I have seen like staying in GV and staying now and staying here in Middle East. It's so different. It's like I have come to the material world from spiritual world. So I just wanted to clarify that. And thank you so much, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, regarding this Bhajan Kriya stage, which I asked that when does it start? Does it start when one starts chanting one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, when actually one properly hears and properly gets some understanding, some nice understanding of philosophy. So I'm asking this, Prabhuji, because when I was introduced to Krishna consciousness for the first 2 years, 3 years, I did not have any association, means really no association. My only association was lectures of His Holiness Sadhanath Maharaj, and that I was hearing, but no one guided me how to hear. Somehow I found them and I was hearing, and some days I would chant 1, 2 rounds like that. And mean some days I will chant 4 rounds, 5 rounds. Some days I will not chant. And then but I had got the deities of Krishna. And I was serving my deities every day. I was hearing Maharaj every day. But chanting was someday there, someday not there. I did not know the glories of chanting and all so much. Though I was hearing Maharaj, something I was understanding, something I was not understanding, like that. So I thought maybe Bhajan Kriya started after I actually met devotees like that. And I went to ISKCON and I actually started talking to devotees like that. So I asked this question, Bhajan.
Yeah, some kind of basic guidance has to be there. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, from what I understand, that I am pretty sure that at least which mantra to chant, and
Yeah,
that
this
actually
this
we
one
have to
one
chant.
time I got, yeah, yes, so this one thing I got. I was given the lectures of Maharaj, I was given Bhagavad Gita, and I was given bead bags, and I told you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I started chanting also 2 rounds, and I
Yeah,
started
that
hearing
is.
Maharaj. So that was guidance I had got. That then
Yeah. I think basically, if you had that much faith that these devotees, what they are telling is right, what they are following is right, the books that they are studying is right, and with that understanding, you started 1 or 2 rounds. That is definitely bhajana kriya.
that is Shraddha. I was thinking that it is just Shraddha, which I have got, but
No,
Sadhu San, yeah, okay.
if you have got Shraddha, then definitely bhajana kriya, some kriya you are doing. So that is
Yeah.
definitely maybe anishtita, but definitely
Hmm.
it is bhajana kriya.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. Next question. Anarthanurti stage, right from the first stage, Utsahamai, and it happens at a very fast stage after one crosses the sixth stage, tarangarangini. Yeah, yeah, definitely, because Anarthanurti starts as soon as even Utsahamai Bhajana Kriya, when it starts, Anarthanurti starts immediately. But as and when the progress becomes more and more steady, even in the unsteady stages, with the higher and higher stages, even within the realm of unsteady devotional service, the practice becomes more and more steady. And with that, when it becomes more and more steady, the anartha nivritti becomes faster and faster also. At Tarangarangini stage, what does it mean to surf? By surfing, I meant to get carried away. When someone is surfing, one just allows the waves to just, sort of carry him away. So the waves of puja, lab, pratishtha, glorification, and name, fame, one just allows that person to carry him away, carry his remembrance of Krishna away. Smartavya sadam Vishnor vismartavyo na jatachit. So with all this glorification and all that, he is always self-absorbed rather than to be absorbed in Krishna. So that way, he is allowing his memory to be carried away, his consciousness to be carried away from Krishna. At next question, at Tarangarangini stage, what does it mean to surf on the waves and not to go deep in bhakti? The person is still practicing bhakti and following his vows, and how his progress may get stunted at this stage. Uh, because that is, in one sense, that becomes external external practice, but internally he becomes very self-absorbed, uh, in thinking about, how he is good, and how he is getting glorified by people, like that. So that way, it is like, he is catching hold of the anchor. Only if he lets go of that anchor of self-absorption, will he go deep into the ocean of bhakti? Even otherwise, even though he is externally, he may be practicing, his consciousness has to meditate on Krishna, but his consciousness becomes self-absorbed. So therefore, his progress becomes stunted. Okay. There is another question in the chat box. Can enthusiasm be mixed with passion? Yeah, sometimes, yeah, quite possible. That passion can be mistaken as enthusiasm also, it is quite possible. And in that case, it is not very sustainable. It is not very sustainable. Sustainable enthusiasm is born out of goodness. Unsustainable spikes of enthusiasm is born out of passion. Okay, there is another comment here that I just want to say thank you for the comments on the internet age. Oh, just hold on for 1 minute. As soon as, just give me 1 second. Okay, can you hear me now? Am I audible? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. So, okay, there is a comment here. Thank you for the comments on the internet age that we are living in, and how we should not take to heart the glorifications, etc., from those who only see us on the internet without knowing who we really are. This is so important. Actually, yes. Otherwise, we may just get carried away and live in a false world. Actually, unreal world, and this is very unfortunate. Actually. Okay, there are few hands up. Mother Gail.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, I had a question about the 6 stages there, but the discussion about bhajana kriya left me confused actually about when a person can consider themselves to be in that stage.
So, I mean, is there a question, or I'm still trying to understand?
My question is therefore, because I got confused by the discussion, I no longer really understand when a person can consider themselves to be in the stage of bhajana kriya.
Yeah, when he starts consciously practicing some limb of devotional service, so then his bhajana kriya has started. Either it could be chanting, it could be hearing, it could be worshipping the deities, taking darshan of the deities consciously, while understanding that it's a spiritual process and it's a spiritually potent process. With that understanding, or even it could as well be even honoring prasadam with the understanding that, oh, this is spiritual food, and by honoring it, I will it will purify me, and I will progress on the path of devotion service. Even consciously performing that limb also can be considered to be bhajana kriya actually.
Okay, so therefore, if a person has taken up any limb of the process with the intention of developing his loving relationship with God, that can be considered bhajana kriya, because that intention is there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because some people might take up various limbs, but maybe they're not so clear about why they're doing what they're doing. So in that case, that should not be considered bhajana kriya, isn't it?
Well, there will always be some amount of lack of clarity with respect to the sambandha gyan, with respect to the knowledge. But as long as there is an overall reasonable clarity, may not be with respect to the details. So whether I am taking 4 minutes to chant one round. Is that right or wrong? Or I am taking, for me, it takes me at least 20 minutes to chant one round. Is that right or wrong? They may have these kind of doubts. As long as they don't have doubts like, should I chant or not? I mean, is Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is that the only mantra I can chant? Like that. So they may have some doubts that may persist with the details, but I think that should be fine.
Uh, so a person who has let's say a basic understanding of Sambandha, and he's taking
Yeah,
up
I mean,
some kind of
yeah.
okay, Prabhu. Just one thing with respect to the 6 stages, I just got a little confused about the person who recognizes. I'm sorry, I don't remember the Sanskrit terms, but that stage where the person recognizes, no, it's not the external, stimuli that's my impediments. It's my own mind, you know, basically.
Uncontrolled mind and senses.
Yeah. And so, and then the stage after that one is the one where he is able to control the mind and senses and now wants to um, increase his vows, let's say. That's the stage after, right?
Yeah. I mean, when
So,
he is able to fairly control his mind and senses, and now he can focus on enhancing the quality and quantity of practice of devotional service. That is the next stage.
yeah, so in this stage, so one stage you recognize or you think that it's mostly because of external things. Next stage, you recognize that it is an internal problem. And the stage directly after that is where you are now trying to increase your sadhana.
Correct.
Is that
Correct.
so?
I mean, yeah, but of course, these things may overlap, as I mentioned. It's not like
Yeah. Yeah.
one ends and the next one starts. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Nitya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dana Pranam, thank you.
Dandavat Mataji.
Prabhu, you were speaking about a devotee, you gave a advice change in the temples. I just wanted to ask you, Prabhu, it's about a temple. Okay, devotee association, all the devotees have different standards of cleanliness. That's another thing. That's what I see. But basic cleanliness, if you are just put into situations after situation, year by year, where there is no basic cleanliness, so you think that that is something you should tolerate, or you should just get out of the situation? Because that tolerance making really, it is not practical at all, because it really affects your whole. Is it an uncontrolled mind then, Prabhu? But because cleanliness, without cleanliness, we can't start anything in our devotional life.
Well,
So,
it's not like that. It's not like that. Well, um, is it that without cleanliness we cannot start devotions? No. Um, uh, uh, you know, Someone may try, but may not be. It may not be possible for him to be that clean. But so devotional service need not wait till he becomes absolutely clean to actually start the process of devotional service. Definitely. he can start with his gradual progress on the path of devotional service. Naturally, cleanliness will also follow. So, uh, so it's not that I'm telling that one has to. So that is not needed. But
Uh,
having said that,
sorry, Prabhu. I think I'm not talking about the person's cleanliness. I'm talking about the place. Because personal cleanliness, I'm nobody, that is individual. But if you're living with devotees, or if you're in a situation that we have to really do it properly, but it doesn't happen, it doesn't,
but
not
that's
all the
because of the
time.
individuals only, na Mataji? That's
Sorry.
because that is because of the individuals only. It is because only it is because
Yeah,
the individuals have a particular standard of cleanliness.
yeah,
So
there is no
uh,
standard at all, Prabhu. I'm not talking about standard, I'm talking about only basics. So, is that okay to leave such an environment, or to tolerate? I don't know how much a person can tolerate.
I cannot give an answer to this, Mataji, because I don't know. Because what is basic for you may be actually not necessarily basic. It may be very high standard also. So,
Sorry, Prabhu, this is literally, I can't, I don't want to get into details, but this is literally basic. I,
I cannot answer this question, Mataji, because without getting into details, we cannot answer this, and this is not a forum where we can get into details of this.
exactly.
So, yeah. So, I this kind of advice you cannot give in a generic forum, Mataji, because I don't know, I have not seen, and I have not exactly uh, because I'm hearing just one side of the story, right? Your presentation of it, but I don't know you as a person. I don't know how you perceive things and uh, and all those things. So it would be very difficult for me to give a generic blanket answer to this particular question.
Yeah,
So
Prabhu, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to understand, is that the mind, uncontrolled mind, or the
I
situation? That's what I wanted to
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Okay,
Because I cannot say I know and give an answer when I actually don't know, because
okay.
I have not seen the situation. I have not. I have to see how other people are perceiving, because otherwise it will be a very one-sided story and coming to a conclusion. I can share generic principles,
Yeah,
but the application of these principles are very subjective,
yeah,
and that needs a fairly good amount of observation and understanding to
yeah.
actually come to a proper conclusion. So I will choose not to exactly comment on that. That would
Okay.
become.
Yeah, understood, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you very much. And also, Prabhu, about enthusiasm. If some
Mhm,
enthusiasm is really uh, there for years and years, but
mhm.
still nothing is like, something is not happening. So, is it still the passion, or can you call that enthusiasm as, but the person
Well,
is not?
something is not happening means what, Mad?
Something in the spiritual side, basically, okay, maybe a project, it's various reason it's not things are not happening. Maybe you're working in a project, this all about spiritual, I'm not talking about material things, Prabhu. So how do you think that is, that still, can you say, is that enthusiasm is passionate, it is still the person is determined and enthusiastic to do, to make it happen for the mission? So what do you think about that?
It may not necessarily be passion. Passion means there is a very strong consideration of personal profit, uh, and
Adoration.
uh, and uh,
Adoration.
and there is, yeah, adoration, and there is
Okay.
lot of fluctuations when
Okay.
the there is success and failure creates a very serious fluctuation, and it affects that enthusiasm. That is a symptom of passionate enthusiasm. But
Okay.
if it is steady, generally it's very likely that it is more of mode of goodness, I would say.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. And actually, it's very similar to answer given by Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj also once. Not once, three times. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so if there are no further discussion points or questions, I think we will move ahead. So we had discussed that one of the reasons for lack of enthusiasm is inattentiveness. So unless we address inattentiveness, sustained enthusiasm is very difficult. So it is until one gets free from these three types of inattentiveness, which is apathy, inactivity, and distraction. One cannot perform devotional service with enthusiasm. So, so he says, even if one gives up all the other namaparats, there are 10 other namaparats. But if he's inattentive, then one can never have attraction to the holy names. This is very, very critical, because inattentive chanting is said to be the mother of all offenses, right? So, so therefore, we will take some time to discuss from Shri Harinam Chintamani about what this inattentive chanting is and how we can get over it, so that we can maintain some enthusiasm in our devotional service. Okay. So, Shila, oh, 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 okay, okay. Anyway, I think this should come, I think, after the whole thing. I think I made a small cut paste mistake, maybe. Okay, just give me 1 second. I will just make this correction. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Oh, I think it should come. Okay, let us anyway. Okay. So we are discussing about what is inattentive chanting, what are the various types of inattentive chanting, and how we can overcome inattentive chanting. So this is from Harinam Chintamani. We are not discussing from Bhakti Loka. Bhakti Loka mentions it. We just want some further elaboration on this subject matter. Therefore, we are discussing from Shri Harinam Chintamani, which actually elaborates on this subject matter. So, this Harinam Chintamani is a conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu questions Haridas Thakur about various aspects of chanting the holy name and the offenses which occur during chanting the holy name, and Srila Haridas Thakur gives elaboration or explains on that subject matter. Srila Haridas spoke to Sanatan Goswami in Puri and to Gopal Bhatta Goswami when you travel to South India. You taught the importance of performing one's chanting without inattention. Well, so this is what Srila Haridas Thakur says, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taught about inattentive chanting, about importance of chanting without inattention. He taught this to Sanatan Goswami and to Gopal Bhatta Goswami when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had gone to South India. He says inattention is counted as one of the aparadas. Even if one successfully overcomes all the other offenses in chanting and one is chanting continuously, love of God may not come if as long as one is inattentive. One should know that the reason for this is that one is committing the offense known as pramada or inattention. Pramada. This offense will block progress to prema. He says pramada means madness, but here the meaning is inattention or carelessness. So inattention or carelessness is called as pramada. It is from this offense that all the offenses spring. So this is the mother of all offenses. Okay. The wise men recognize three types of inattention. So there are three types of inattention. The first is called as indifference or no attention, which is called as audasenya. Audasenya means apathy or indifference. Apathetic practice of devotional service or chanting. Second is called as jadya or laziness. We feel very lazy. And the third is called as vikshepa or distraction. So we are going to see what these three are, what causes it, and how we can overcome it. So Srila Haridas Thakur says, so by good fortune, after getting faith, a jiva will take up the name. You know, where this good fortune is accumulation of agyata sukriti, accumulation of agyata sukriti by association of devotees. Okay, by good fortune, one gets faith, and when one gets faith, a jiva will take up to the name. So this is Shraddha, and this is Bhajana Kriya. Okay. By chanting regularly, counting on a Tulsi Mala carefully, he will develop attraction for the name. However, okay, until that attraction has actually developed, attraction for the name is like Ruchi. But until that attraction is actually developed, one must be very careful about how one chants. One must be concerned about their chanting. Am I chanting attentively? Am I chanting inattentively? Am I hearing what I am chanting? So we have to be, so until we develop taste, ruchi, a natural taste for chanting the holy names and performing the other limbs of devotional service, one has to be very careful about how one chants. One should be concerned. The concern should be there because abhinnatvad nama namino, the holy name is non-different from Krishna. So how we deal with Krishna in the form of his holy name, we have to be concerned until we develop taste for the holy name. Okay. So here, Srila Haridas Thakur continues. Naturally, the common man having attachment to material things will be attracted to these things even while chanting. So, therefore, he says that, a common man has attachment to many material things. So therefore, why would that attachment go away while chanting? It will be there even while chanting, right? So he says, even though he may be chanting japa daily, if his taste is elsewhere, he will show indifference to the name. So this is, first he's going to speak about what is called as audasenya. Audasinya means indifference. We show indifference to a particular object which does not interest us. So indifference is because we don't have attachment to the holy name. We don't have attachment to the process of devotional service, but we have attachment to material things. So as long as we have material attachment to material things, why during normal time, why would that attachment go away while chanting? It will remain. And when that attachment to other material things is there during chanting, then we will naturally be attentive to that attentive to those objects to which we are attached, and we will become indifferent to those objects to which we are not attached to. We are not attached to the holy name. We will become udasin. We will become indifferent to the holy name, and we are very much attached to material things. So we will not be udasin or very indifferent to other material things. So his heart will not be absorbed in chanting the name, but in some material object. How can that benefit him? So many things. We all, at least many of us, may be suffering from this problem, and we all different. We all have different attachments, right? And because of these different attachments, even while chanting, we may be meditating on that particular object and not on the holy name. So he may chant 64 rounds, counting strictly on his japa beads, but in his heart, he has not received one drop of the taste for the holy name. Right? There is no taste. We are just going through the motion, completing the rounds, getting it done, getting done with it. So this indifference or apathy towards the name is one type of inattention. This is called as audacity. In the heart of a materialist, it is unavoidable. Our heart is a materialistic heart only. Okay. Uh, so it is very difficult to overcome this. He says, if indifference or lack of attraction for the name is present, one should take association of Vaishnavas who are properly chanting in some place sheltered from material influence. So, how to overcome apathy or indifference, which is called as audasinya, which is the first type inattentive chanting. How to overcome apathy or indifference or audasinya? First thing is chant in the association of properly chanting Vaishnavas. This is very critical actually. If we chant in the association of properly chanting Vaishnavas, then their enthusiasm, their respect to the holy name will rub on us, and we will also become little more respectful. That indifferent, the attitude of indifference is very prominent when we are alone actually. But when we are in the association of other devotees who value the holy name very strongly, then that indifference is not there. Second thing is, in a place sheltered from material influence. Okay. We all know that if you are sitting in front of a television or if you are browsing and chanting, we cannot we will be completely indifferent or apathetic to chanting, right? So we have to be in a place which is sheltered from material influence. By chanting in that situation, his absorption in material things will be reduced. Being inspired by the conduct of the Vaishnavas, he will give up that fault. So this is very important. The being inspired by the conduct of the Vaishnavas, we will give up that fault. Gradually, the heart will get attraction to the name and will be anxious for the nectar of the name. So, Adarad Anudinam Kalusaiva Jishta Swadvi Kramat Bhavati. So, if we are regulated, respectful, and regular in our chanting of in chanting properly, then gradually taste will come. The advanced devotees have recommended that one live in a place where Krishna and his pastimes, where in a place where Krishna had his pastimes. So the third is to live in a temple or dham, which is surcharged with the proper vibrations of worship of Krishna. That also helps overcome audasinya or indifference. The fourth is one can chant near Tulsi, okay, near Tulsi. That is also a very powerful way of overcoming indifference. Next, in the company of Vaishnavas that we have already seen, and gradually increase the period of chanting. Period of chanting means number of rounds. Gradually increase number of rounds. Of course, in the association of devotees. Quickly, the taste for material objects will go. Another remedy is to carefully chant in a room by oneself with the door locked, or concentrate on the name by covering the eyes, ears, and nose with a cloth or the like to prevent stimuli from the exterior. Okay, or lock oneself in a room that is free from stimulus, material stimulus. So like that, or next he says is cover nose, eyes, and ears, because distraction comes when our nose or eyes or ears comes in touch with objects to which we are more attached than the holy name, which is practically the whole world actually, right? So if our nose, eyes, or ears come in touch with objects which are more attractive than the holy name, then immediately we will become indifferent to the holy name, right? Because it is just a comparative thing. So, so therefore, we have to cover. So one of the things that is suggested for overcoming indifference is covering of our nose, eyes, and ears, so that we don't get disturbed by the stimulus. So in this way, 7 different solutions have been given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he says, carefully chanting in this way, an attraction or taste for the name will develop and indifference will be suppressed. So 7 different solutions Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given for overcoming the first type of inattention, which is indifference, audasinya, apathy, apathetic chanting. So how do we overcome apathetic chanting? I want you to recollect from your memory. We have discussed 7 different points, 7 points. Can you share the 7 points in your chat box. Can you please type? Please recollect. Otherwise, we can keep discussing. Unless we recollect, how are we going to even try to apply these points? So I am just requesting you, please recollect and in the chat box. First, yes, to chant in the association of devotees. That is number 1. Quick, please quickly recollect. Chant near Tulsi Maharani. This is number 2. Third is slowly increase the rounds. This is number 3. Okay, chant near Tulsi is already mentioned. Chant in the association of devotees is already mentioned. Hear the mantra. Of course, that is true, but we did not discuss it. Live in the dham, or where the Lord's pastimes have happened. This is number 4. Increase the number of rounds is described. Temple is described. Cover the eyes, ears, and nose. This is the 5th one. Or and lock oneself in a room where it is free from external stimulus. This is 6th one. 7. One more thing is left. What is the 7th one? Let us see if you are able to recollect. What is the 7th one? What is the 7th one? Chant in a place which is sheltered from material influence. Of course, some of them are a little bit overlapping, but nevertheless, okay, fine. Thank you very much. It was a good recollection, good exercise. So this is about how to overcome audacenia or indifference. This is the first type of inattentiveness. Now let's talk about the second type of inattentiveness, which is called as jadya or laziness or sluggishness. Okay. So here Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, if one chants with a sluggish mind, or after chanting a little, one has to stop before finishing his round, it is called as laziness. How do we know we are lazy? That once we start our round, and before even we complete our round, if we are just pausing for a while, it means probably we are lazy, sluggish. So what happens? He says, from this one's taste for the name cannot develop. As long as we are sluggish, as long as our chanting is sluggish, we cannot, the taste for the chanting cannot develop. The remedy for this is to take the association of Vaishnavas who do not waste time in material activity, but constantly chant and remember the holy name, being absorbed in the name. Okay. So what is the solution for laziness? The solution for laziness is association of Vaishnavas who never waste time. Okay, this is the solution, one of the solutions. So what happens in their association? He says one should follow in their footsteps. When one sees how the true Vaishnava or sadhu does not waste time in useless pursuits, he will develop a taste to do likewise. Just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Just give me a second. Okay. So he says that when one sees how the true Vaishnava or Sadhu does not waste time in useless pursuits, he will develop a taste to do likewise. In his mind, he will think, oh, very good, very good. I should be like him. By this, enthusiasm will come to the lazy mind and he will overcome the offense of laziness or inertia. Right? So, in this way, one will become determined to increase his chanting every day. And by this eagerness in his rounds and by the mercy of the devotees, the offense of inertia will go away quickly. Okay, so how to overcome laziness? Don't stay around lazy people. Stay around people who never waste time. Who never waste time. And in this way, seeing that how they are utilizing every single moment in serving Krishna in various ways, we also get an inspiration that, oh, I should also be like him. So therefore, elevated association is very critical to overcome laziness, because we should have very high standards for us so that we get inspired in their association. So this is very critical. So one solution is given for overcoming laziness, which is to stay in the association of devotees who never waste time. Now, coming to the third type of inattentiveness, which is called as distraction, okay, or vikshepa. Okay, he says one should be careful to eliminate the third type of inattention, which is distraction. From distraction, all types of inattention are born. So inattentive chanting is the mother of all offenses, and the mother of inattentive chanting is distraction. So the grandmother of all the offenses is actually distraction. What is it? So he says this fault resides in attraction for women, women for men, or men in the case of women, wealth, women and wealth, attraction for material success or victory, desire for position, and cheating propensity. Okay. So when we have deep attachment for women, so when we are constantly thinking about the opposite sex or wealth or success or position or cheating propensity somehow to get any of these other things, so then this leads to distraction. If one has attraction in one will naturally be inattentive to the holy name. One should be careful to eliminate these fixations by following the proper Vaishnava behavior. So the solution for distraction. The solution for distraction, the first is follow Vaishnava Sadachar. So how does following Vaishnava Sadachar or proper Vaishnava behavior, how does it help overcome distraction? So for example, if one is in a place where there are many persons from the opposite sex, then the proper Vaishnava behavior suggests that one should walk looking down. So therefore, so if one follows that Vaishnava Sadachar, then one will not be distracted by attraction to the opposite sex, right? But if that Sadachar is not followed, then then it will not be possible, right? This is just one example. But if we follow proper Vaishnava etiquettes, then to a large extent, it can save us from distraction, actually. And then he says on Ekadashis and appearance days. Today is a disappearance day of Srila Sanatana Goswami, Guru Purnima. On Ekadashis and appearance days, one should stop thinking of eating and all day and night chant in the association of devotees. So take advantage of holy tithis and chant and hear in the association of Vaishnavas. Okay. In this way, one will joyfully engage in devotional activities, listening to scriptures of the Lord in the association with the Lord's servants in the Lord's dham. Okay. So, and hear and chant in the association of devotees in the Lord's dham. Okay. So by that, what happens? Gradually, the bhakti portion of one's mind will increase, and the mind will rejoice in hearing topics about Krishna. So when there is persistent engagement of the senses in Krishna conscious activities, then the mind will be filled more and more with Krishna conscious impressions, so that the mind will be forced to meditate on Krishna conscious and not get distracted by material stimuli. So this persistent engagement, Krishna conscious engagement to the senses is critical, and it is possible only in the association of devotees. Alone, one may not get the inspiration to do that. But in the association, we can borrow that inspiration from other devotees. Okay. So then gradually, the higher taste will come and the lower taste will go. Upon hearing songs about Krishna from the mouths of the pure devotees, one's mind and ears will taste the real nectar. So this is the next solution that he gives is hear songs and uh, songs about Krishna from the mouths of pure devotees. Okay. In this way, the desire for low material objects will disappear, and the heart will be constantly fixed and attracted to singing the name. By avoiding the offense of distraction, one will be able to indulge in the nectar of the name. One should thus never be inattentive to complete one's prescribed number of daily rounds. This should be noted day by day. So the next thing that he says is never be inattentive to complete the prescribed number of rounds. One should note it day by day, like that. When chanting these prescribed rounds, one should avoid the different types of inattentiveness. Giving up the desire to increase the number of rounds for show, one should attempt to first concentrate nicely on what one can manage. So he says, give up desire to increase number of rounds for show, for in order to show off to people. Not that one should not increase the number of rounds, but one should not do it for show. We should first attempt to concentrate nicely on what one can manage. But that does not mean, many times people say it is better to chant one round attentively than to chant 16 rounds inattentively. But I mean, this sounds very all right, but this is oversimplification of this whole principle. Generally, if you see, that person will not be able to chant even that one round attentively. One should not over dilute this principle just to justify that, okay, I will chant one round. Prabhu, you may be chanting 16 rounds. I don't know how attentive it is, but I will try to chant one round nicely. So people generally want to justify they're not increasing their rounds by telling that isn't quality better than quantity? Low quality means low quantity necessarily means very high quality. This is not necessarily true, because naturally good quality breeds quantity also. If one is chanting one round very attentively, one will feel bliss, and by that bliss one would naturally want to chant 2 rounds attentively, and they will feel more bliss. In that way they will feel like chanting 3 rounds more attentively. So one cannot just say that, isn't it better to chant one round attentively than to chant many rounds inattentively? Well, yeah, that is true, but generally, but that may not be your case. We may just hide behind the excuse of quality, so that we don't have to necessarily increase the quantity. So this can happen in many practices actually. Like people may not be able to fast on Ekadashis. Okay, so someone may genuinely have issues. They may say, Prabhu, I'm really sorry, I cannot actually. I find it very difficult to fast, so I will take a little, and so that I can focus on doing my services and my chanting. That is fine, but many times people may say, oh, it is better to eat and perform devotional service than to fast and always think of prasadam. As if whoever is fasting is thinking of prasadam, and whoever is eating is actually engaging for the rest of the time in very full-fledged devotional service. It may not necessarily be the case. One may have full-fledged prasadam on Ekadashi, of course, Ekadashi prasadam, and may go to sleep also. So we have to understand what our motive is. So he says, giving up the desire to increase the number of rounds for show. One should attempt to first concentrate nicely on what one can manage. The devotee starts by chanting with full concentration in a peaceful place for a short time. He will always be praying to the Lord that he will chant clear, attentive rounds with mind fixed on Krishna. On one's own, one cannot accomplish anything. So this is importance of prayers to overcome inattention. This is very important. We have to pray. We have to offer prayers to overcome inattention. This is very critical. Krishna's grace is necessary to cross the ocean of material existence. Being anxious in heart, one should beg for mercy, and because Krishna is merciful, he will help. So inattention to a large extent can be overcome by prayers. So whoever does not try for that mercy is very unfortunate. If we don't pray, then we are very ekaki amar harinama sankirtane. We don't have any strength, but Krishna has all the strength. The Vaishnavas have all the strength. So if we seek mercy through prayers, then we can certainly overcome. Otherwise, we are very unfortunate. So he concludes this chapter. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur concludes this chapter by telling that person who has attained the ornament of the touchstone of the holy name still aspires for the 2 feet of Haridas Thakur. Like that. So, so that brings us to the end of this chapter, Harinam Chintamani chapter on inattention, because we were discussing inattention is one very important cause. You can say cause, or you can also say symptom of lack of enthusiasm. So when we overcome inattention, these 3 types of inattention, indifference, laziness, and distraction, then we can enthusiastically progress on the path of devotional service, enthusiastically practice the limbs of devotional service. And we saw what is the cause of indifference, what is the cause of laziness, and what is the cause of distraction, and how by various practice one can overcome indifference, laziness, and distraction. Okay. Any quick discussion points, comments, anything anyone would like to share as add before we move ahead? There is one question in the chat box here. Can we chant with the picture of the lotus feet? I feel this very, very helpful. Yeah, why not? Definitely. Okay, Mother Gail.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. I'm just wondering about this statement that the chanting should be done on Tulsi beads. You know, for example, Lord Chaitanya himself, not going to compare myself to Lord Chaitanya, but he chanted on his fingers. I myself, I have so many other beads that, frankly, I'm attached to that are not
Tulsi beads
made out of Tulsi. Yeah, so I mean, it's not the attention that we give to the holy name the essential point here.
Well,
I mean, probably Tulsi, you know, Krishna will probably, you know, he probably loves, because of his love for Tulsi, he will really appreciate it. But as far as, would it actually hinder our spiritual progress if we don't use Tulsi?
well, then we have to ask, you know, Tulsi is very dear to Krishna. So, and definitely Krishna will be very pleased if, you know, if only we knew the potency of Tulsi Maharani in aiding our progress on the path of devotional service, then we would consider an honor to actually stay in touch with her to progress actually. So yes, we may have attachment to other beads, but ideally we should be attached to those things which Krishna is attached to. That Krishna does not Krishna does not accept anything without a Tulsi leaf. So Tulsi Maharani is no ordinary personality. So to the very fact that she's allowing us to touch her while chanting the holy name is so that Krishna will feel happy to accept our broken names. So so we should consider it as an honor that she's allowing us to even touch her. Actually, she is in the spiritual world orchestrating Krishna's pastimes with Radharani. So Krishna's pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan happen only because of the orchestration of Vrindadevi, who has manifested in this material world as Tulsi Maharani. And such an exalted personality is allowing us to touch her so that Krishna feels happy even to accept our broken names. Isn't that a fortune, actually? So,
Well, the way I was trying to get around that was by just always chanting in front of the Tulsi plant.
yeah. And then you also get the opportunity to touch her and chant. That's an additional fortune.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, it's a
So,
fortune, but I
you could do
wonder
one thing.
if it actually. I wonder if it actually hinders one's progress.
Well, it's not whether you hold Tulsi or not, but it's the question of how much we value uh, the uh, the potency of Tulsi Maharani, how much we value the position of Tulsi Maharani. That is very critical,
Mhm.
actually.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, you can get
Okay.
around
Okay.
it. You can get around it uh, by what the putting those other beads on your neck, and so that you get to touch those beads also, and at the same time you get to touch Tulsi Maharani also.
No, for me, the attachment is to actually chanting on them. That's
Chant
my
what?
problem.
Chant what,
My
Mataji?
attachment is chanting the mantra. My attachment is to chanting the mantra on those beads, not wearing them.
Oh, okay. Well, uh, okay. So then you could do both on if it is, I don't know if it is physically possible for you to, I mean, is it because, I mean, I don't want to ask a very personal question. Um,
No,
uh,
it's just an aesthetic thing. It's because I love the look. I have various beads, and it's just because they're just so pretty. To be honest.
oh, okay. Uh, yeah. Well, I can only say, I can only tell Mataji, you take your time get over it. So, because it is mentioned that in Bhagavatam there is a description. Mandara kunda kurabotpala champakarna punnaga naga bakulambuja parijata. Um, uh, what is that? Anyway, so the verse says that there are so many very fragrant flowers uh, in the spiritual world in Vaikuntha, uh, which can, and Tulsi Maharani is not considered very fragrant. Neither is the flower or manjari of Tulsi Maharani considered very pretty, and her fragrance may not be considered from a material point of view not very fragrant, but still all the flowers and flower bearing trees of Vaikuntha, they respect and offer their obeisances to Tulsi Maharani. Yasmin tapassu manaso bahumanayanti. They consider, oh, this Tulsi Maharani is very great. This Tulsi Maharani is very great. She must have performed very great austerities because Krishna likes to have her constantly on his lotus feet, wear her garlands. He wants to have the touch of Tulsi Marani always. And he wants to have Tulsi Marani, and he will not accept food in which Tulsi Marani, which is not touched by Tulsi Marani. So yes, is it that is it wrong to be attached which are pretty? No, but it is wrong to not want to get over that attraction and get attracted to objects, people, places, paraphernalia which have more transcendental value. Otherwise, the attachment will not go overnight. So even I am attached to many material things, and that attachment will not go overnight. But not wanting to give up that attachment is not good. So overnight we may not be able to overcome, but at least we can take our time. But eventually we should want to overcome, because we want to see things from Krishna's perspective. What Krishna values, we want to value what Krishna values. We can't hope that Krishna will start valuing what we are valuing. Yeah. So that way, Tulsi Maharani is allowing us to touch her while we are chanting Krishna's names. We can take advantage of that. But having said that, because see, actually, I cannot ridicule anyone's attachments, because your attachment may seem very trivial to me, and my attachments may seem very trivial to you. So each one of us have our own attachments, and I am certainly not trivializing your attachment, because I have my own attachments, which many people actually have mentioned to me are very trivial actually, but it's not trivial to me. So therefore I'm not trivializing your attachments, but I'm just making a philosophical point. The reality is that your attachment and my attachment are actually trivial from Krishna's point of view, even though it may not be from our point of view. So it's okay. Krishna will let us take our own time to overcome those attachments. But just that from our side, we should want to overcome those attachments and be attached to things which have a transcendental value from Krishna's perspective, actually. That's my understanding. Is that relevant, Mathil?
Well, this speech was very, very inspiring, and it'll probably, take me very, very far to getting over that particular attachment, because it was very, very, very inspiring, actually. But I would say that the last point about this issue is, how would you respond to this thing about, in the CC, I've seen that Lord Chaitanya, he counted on his fingers, and that's another way I also enjoy doing, So, I mean, how come he did? I mean, maybe he did use Tulsi beads, but the fact that he uses fingers, that's there in the CC. So, what to say about that?
Well, but it was not like a what aspect of great personalities and the Supreme Lord himself we are expected to follow. The later acharyas actually simplify it for us, because certain of their actions we are not supposed to imitate, and some of their actions are born out of love. So it transcends uh, the lower rules, which may be important rules for sadhakas, but may not be very important rules for the perfected devotees. So for sadhakas, which are important, which are not important, which one should follow, which one should not imitate, is these principles are simplified by the later acharyas for us. So Therefore, their instructions should be taken seriously rather than taking one point that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not use beads to chant. Well, the gopis worshipped Surya Dev. Gopis worshipped some demigods for getting Krishna. So, are we supposed to do that also? So, no. So, in that case, we wait for the later acharyas to clarify these principles for us. The later acharyas explain, no. Their worship of Krishna was born out of prema. It was out of the desperation that I am willing to worship anyone as long as I get Krishna as my husband. The desperation pushed them to act in that way. It was not really that they considered the demigod as very great or whatever, but it was just born out of pure love. So some of those actions are not meant to be imitated even by Raganuga sadhakas. What to speak of Vaidhi sadhakas? So this very clearly Srila Jiva Goswami says. So yeah, I am not telling that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not chant on his fingers. He did chant. But whether is that something, are we not supposed to chant on our fingers? No. We can definitely turn our fingers. But we should also understand the importance of Tulsi Maharani in our regular practice of devotional service. Of course, Tulsi Maharani is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's servant, and but for us, we are dependent on our service to Tulsi Maharani. So, yeah, we should accept the instructions of the later acharyas as to what is very important. Is that okay, Matthew?
Well, I mean, it was a miraculous degree of help that you gave me in overcoming this attachment. So yeah, because like you said, some things are trivial for one, not trivial for another, and this one is a very deep attachment for me. So the fact that you have given me even the desire to overcome it is like a miracle. But
If it was,
I practically feel like I'm practically ready to do that, despite how I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I feel like I'm like kind of the same time. Oh, I don't know. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, Matthew.
Okay.
Yeah, but
so
you if it was of any value, then I request that you pray that I can overcome my attachments also.
Oh, Prabhu. Anyway, I can only thank you immensely for the help that you've given me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay. There is another question here. How important is it to chant 16 rounds in one sitting? If we chant 16 rounds in 3 or 4 sittings, does it affect the quality of chanting? Well, I mean, definitely senior devotees and acharyas have emphasized the importance of chanting. Definitely it's good, but it is not a very hard and fast rule. There are many factors. We cannot make that as the one single overarching factor in our chanting that we have to complete our 16 rounds in one go. It definitely helps, but there are other factors to be considered. In some circumstances, we may not be able to do it. It may become too difficult for us. So depending on our stage of chanting, see, one very important principle in chanting is to have live guidance, whether it is chanting or any aspect of devotional service. And it is to have live guidance of of some Vaishnava who knows us, who knows our strengths and weakness, our struggles and victories, and who are genuine well-wishers and can guide us. So therefore, it would be inappropriate on my part to say that no, you have to chant 16 rounds sitting at one place when I have not bothered to understand your practical difficulties in toto. So is it important to chant 16 rounds in one sitting? It can definitely help, but that I won't say that it's a very overarching principle which um, it's a absolutely non-negotiable principle. I would not say like that. That's my understanding. There's another comment here. I heard that chanting on Tulsi beads, then we are associating and grateful to her. Yeah, yeah. So Tulsi beads. I will just end with one very beautiful, beautiful prayer from Bhakti Rasam Sindhu Srila Rupa Goswami. Mentions this verse. Yadrishta nikilaga sanga shamani sprishta vapu pavani roganam abhivandita nirasani siktantakatrasini pratyasakti vidayini bhagavatat krishnasya samropita statacharane vimukti falada tasyai tulasyai namaha. There is a verse which says which are the various ways in which we can serve Tulsi Maharani and how she responds. He says, Ya Drishta. Drishta means when we see, take darshan of Tulsi Maharani, how does she help us? She destroys all our sins. Ya Drishta Nikilaga Sanga Shamani. Just by taking darshan of Tulsi Maharani, she destroys all our sins. Then Sprishta. How does she respond? When we touch her, like while chanting the Mahamantra, when we touch her, how does she help us? Vapu Pavani. She purifies our body. Okay. Sprishta Vapu Pavani and Abhivandita. Abhivandita by offering obeisances. She cures our diseases. When we offer obeisances to her, she cures our diseases. Roganam abhivandita nirasani sikta. When we offer water to her, what she does? She destroys death. She destroys death. Siktantakatrasini pratyasakti vidayini bhagavata krishnasya samropita. And sampita. Samropita means to plant a Tulsi Maharani. So when we plant her, how does she respond? She attaches our heart to Krishna. And finally, Nyastatacharani. When we offer her to the lotus feet of Krishna, to lotus feet of Krishna, how does she respond? Vimukti falada, she gives us prema. Tasyai tulasyai namaha. So these are uh, various ways in which Tulsi Maharani, she has descended to this material world uh, um, just to help the sadhakas actually. While in the spiritual world, she is assisting Radha and Krishna in their pastimes, but having descended in this material world, she has taken the sole responsibility of helping struggling sadhakas actually. That is responsibility. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Vrindadevi Ashtakam, he says, Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshaihi क्षिप्ताश्च कामादितरङ्ग मध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे namaste charanarvindam. So he says, Bhaktya vihina, you know, in this world, those sadhakas, Bhaktya vihina, who are struggling with very meager devotion. Lakshaihi. They are struggling with meager devotion, and they have been committing unlimited offenses, and because of which they are very quickly gliding down the slippery slopes of the mountain of bhakti. Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshaihi kshiptascha kamadi taranga madhye. And because of which they are struggling with lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion, and pride, and they are slipping very fast on the slippery slopes of the mountain of bhakti. And here is Vrinda Devi, who is extending her hand. Come on, catch hold of me, catch me, and I will pull you up. So even such people who are gliding down can catch hold of her, take shelter of her, and she will push them up. So she's not an ordinary soul. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation. I am sorry I went over time. So we will continue this discussion next Wednesday. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Srila Sanatan Goswami Pad ki jai. It's his disappearance day today. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj ki jai. It is his disappearance day also today. So Shri Bhaktya Loka ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.